All right, everyone. Good afternoon. Welcome to Emerge's final college research series. I really want to thank everybody for joining us today. You're in for a treat. I'm going to start there and say you're definitely in for a treat. So just to make sure everybody's awake and that all of our features are kind of working here, I'm just curious to know too, since this is the first series that I've been a part of and facilitated. So I'm just wondering, if you're in the chat right now, so any of our guests that are joining us today, any of Emerge seniors, if this is your first Emerge College Research Series that you've been a part of, put a 1 in the chat. And if this is your second or you've gone to multiple so far, put a 2. So I'm just curious to see from our audience here, how many of you all have been to some of these before, or is this the first one that you're a part of? All right. Man, I am so happy to see that. I'm seeing so many 2s. That makes me so happy. I'll tell you what, we put a lot of time and effort into this series, and so to see that many of you have gone to multiple, that makes me really, really happy. I see some 1s also, which is definitely okay, because since this is your first one, I can guarantee you picked a really good one to go to. I was telling Gilberto, who's our guest today, that I'm really, really excited that he's sharing and representing Northwestern, because growing up, my sister had the opportunity to go to Northwestern, and so Northwestern has a really special place in my heart. So hopefully at the end of this, you all are feeling really excited about Northwestern too. So thank you all for kind of giving me some context on your series. So just to quickly introduce myself, my name is Daniel Lopez. So I'm actually a senior manager with the Emerge Houston Independent School District team. My job basically is to support all of their 12th grade program managers who support students at HISD. So I know we have students from a lot of different districts, which is exciting. If you're an HISD, represent, what up? I'm a part of HISD, and if not, welcome. We're very excited to have you as well. We're all one big Emerge family here today. And so with that being said, I wanted to just kind of lay out a couple of house rules before we kind of get started and I introduce our very special speaker for today. Really the first thing, being just as a reminder, at the end of this, I would really, really appreciate it if you all would complete this exit ticket. Our goal is to always, give feedback from the students and make these things better, right? So I know that, throughout this year, we're going to try to do a lot of exciting things like this to just give you all some exciting content and loop in our scholars. And so if you all could give us your feedback at the end of this, the link is here, the QR code is there. I'm going to also put this up at the end of the presentation so that we can just offer any feedback that you have for us as we're working on this. And then everybody's doing a really great job at doing this now, but just in terms of house norms, if you have any questions or you want to engage in this conversation, because I do want this to be conversational, I want you to be able to talk to Gilberto, and I want Gilberto to be able to respond to your questions. Please use the chat that we have. If you want to ask a question in person, you can do so. I'll be taking questions at the end of this presentation part though, and we'll take more questions there. And if you want to just say your question instead of typing it, you can do that as well. But while Gilberto is presenting, please everybody stay on mute status as you are currently. If you want to have your camera on, that's fine as well. But we want to make sure Gilberto has the floor right now, and then afterwards we can ask any questions. As he's presenting, if you want to start typing questions in the chat, I'm going to just make note of those, and I'm going to start asking those to Gilberto at the end of his presentation. So we can do that also. The last thing I would just say too is, guys, keep it 100, right? Like at the end of the day, this is for you. We want you all to get the information that you need to make the best college choice for yourself, right? I know that this is not an easy time, especially in the time of COVID, to make this decision. So we ask the hard questions, right? Ask the questions that you need to know about Northwestern to help you better understand whether or not it's a good fit for your list. I will also give you a piece of advice and say that, throughout this process, there's never going to be a time where you're 100% certain on your college, right? And that's okay, right? That is okay. Even though even your dream school doesn't mean it's perfect. But that doesn't mean you can't get really close, right? And ask a lot of the right questions that you want in order to find that school that feels like the best fit for you, okay? So with that, I'm going to introduce our guest speaker. I'm going to get us started. I know we're all really excited to hear about Northwestern and see what it has to offer. And so Gilberto, you have the floor. I want to introduce Gilberto. And Gilberto, if you don't mind telling us a little bit about yourself. Gilberto is an Emerge scholar, so he's been walking through your shoes and he knows exactly what you all are experiencing at this point right now. So Gilberto, please tell us a little bit about yourself and thank you very much for your time today. I'm going to allow you to share your screen as well.
Sure. Thank you so much, Mr. Lopez, for the introduction. Looking forward to this. Again, everyone, thank you. Thank you for signing on. These are my thoughts on Northwestern. I hope you get something out of it. It should be good. But Yeah. Like Mr. Lopez said, you'll never know like what school is going to be your perfect match, but you can get pretty close. You can get a school that you really like. So these are just my thoughts on Northwestern. Everybody's experience is going to be different, but this is kind of where I'm coming from. So let's see. Yeah, so a little bit about me. A little bit about me is I'm a rising junior, class of 2022. I'm studying mechanical engineering as my bachelor's major, but I'm also considering also doing a master's in computer science. Some of the things I do for fun is a lot of running. You can kind of see me here at the bottom with my track team. You can see me on the bottom right. Um, and then I'm also into weightlifting. I got into the gym at my school, great facility, so that's great. Chess, this is a picture of chess time that I play on my phone. A little bit getting into meditation and some podcasts. From Houston, Texas, born and raised. Yeah, HISD all the way. And then let's see. Oops. So my stats, I graduated in 2018 from Chavez High School in HISD. My GPA 4.69, SAT 1490. Activities, yeah, I was part of the chess team. You can see here on the left. We were a nationally competing chess team, so that's pretty cool. Cross country and track. This is me in Mexico doing some running training just by myself, going up and down some stairs. And then I also did the summer math camp in San Marcos, Texas, and I was also a counselor there after my freshman year. Yeah, so college search, I'll be honest with you, I didn't know Northwestern at all before I started my college search. Like I hadn't heard the name at all. I think most people in Texas in general may not know what Northwestern is at all, and that's perfectly fine. So I kind of really focused on my values and deal breakers as opposed to limiting myself to schools I knew. Yeah, so I think the biggest thing for me was money. I was really afraid of debt. And yeah, that comes from my parents not really being in a position to be able to support me financially. And that's okay, not everybody can. Yes, STEM, I really wanted to go to some school that at least offered engineering. My parents always said, oh, math and science, you should really check out engineering. I'm still learning more about the field, but I'm liking it so far. Like I mentioned, going into mechanical engineering. Yeah, another thing was not in Houston in Texas. This is kind of funny because Houston's really hard to get around without a car. So at times it was kind of tough. I wanted someplace walkable. And so Northwestern is in Chicago in Evanston, a suburb of Chicago. And yeah, you can get around pretty easy. So that's something I really valued. And then close to an urban center, Chicago's big, Houston's big. So I was kind of used to that. And my high school, Chavez, is about 8,000 students ish. So a medium-sized school, around 10K people was kind of what I was looking for my school. And then also on-campus housing, I was still kind of hesitant about getting my own apartment, and I wanted to get the dorm experience as well. And then just some background as to how my college search started off. I did a couple flying programs, so I had the chance to visit Swarthmore and MIT. And then shout out to Emerge for helping with the Northeast tour, and then also visiting Tulane. So that was pretty cool. Yeah, also what you see here on the right, this donut looking thing, this is what got me into mechanical engineering. This is a nuclear fusion reactor concept. It doesn't work yet, but that's kind of what pushed me in that direction. Yeah, so how I actually applied, like I mentioned, I didn't know Northwestern at all, but I figured out that there's this Quest Bridge program, which I really liked. And so the way it works, if you're not familiar, is you get to rank a certain amount of schools, and it's basically early decision for multiple schools with a scholarship package attached. So yeah, I didn't know Northwestern at all, and so I started looking at the Quest Bridge partners. And yeah, this was my list. I ranked MIT first since I had visited it, and this was my list. And yeah, Northwestern was the one that matched me. So they said, "Oh, we want the student," and that's how I got there. Yeah, so just a general college applications recommendation. I'd apply to this program even if maybe you're not eligible, or even if you're not interested in the partners. It has a pretty early deadline, I think in September, and it has a lot of essays that'll just get you started on the writing, and it'll just put you in a good place, even if you end up uh, doing, not applying to the partner school. So that's just a recommendation. Yeah. So like I mentioned, I didn't know anything about Northwestern. It did fit the value adds that I mentioned before, but the cool thing is that I had the opportunity to get involved before my freshman year through the summer program. So right after I graduated high school, I got a chance to take part in these two programs. So Excel was a 5-week course, STEM focused, basically a taste of the fall quarter for an engineering student. I had 4 classes, and those 4 classes were the ones that I was going to take in the fall. So that was nice. It got me a little bit more prepared. It's a change of pace when you get to college. And then summer academic workshop. So like I mentioned, I'm doing engineering right now. This is kind of more on the liberal arts side of things. So it's kind of more a writing program. So that's something that I really liked, was that they had these summer programs, these support programs that you can apply to. A lot of schools do have some kind of transition programs that are targeted to help out minority and low income students. And yeah, I think that's a good sign if your school, it's a school that you want to apply to, has these, and that shows that they're willing to support their students. And so yeah, this is me in Chicago on the right side, and then up top, this is it's a prototype that I made at the Excel program. So I got to work in the prototyping lab, and I got to cut some cardboard and put it together, and it was super cool. Yeah, so things I'm involved in here at school, track club, like I mentioned, this is my team at the bottom. Compass program, this was a mentorship program, a 1-year mentorship program my freshman year. And what it was all centered about, it was basically Friday nights, we'd get some food and we have a workshop. It's kind of like a merge, except not geared towards college, college application progress, college application. Yeah, so it was really cool. Also, blockchain group. If you're not familiar, blockchain is the technology behind Bitcoin, and I had no idea what this thing was before I got to school. And now I'm actually helping lead the club as the club's president. So it's really cool. I mean, Northwestern has a lot of different clubs that you can get involved with, and these are just some of the ones I have been a part of. Another really cool one you see on the bottom right is the ballroom, Latin, and swing team. So yeah, I for about 3 months I got the chance to learn some rumba, and that was super cool. And then also there's a couple of different professional organizations for minority students. One of them being the Society of Hispanic Professional Engineers, and so that was really cool. You can see at top right that one day they just had a conchas y chocolate abuelita. So that was really cool because at that point in time I just hadn't had any other type of food, Hispanic food. And it was just kind of heartwarming, honestly. And then Slipka Academic Committee. So in my dorm, we had a lot of programming that students got to do, and we had a budget and everything. And Slipka is just, I'll get into this in a little bit, but it's really interesting because, yeah, they're kind of, it's very, you get to do whatever you want. So in this bottom left, this is actually a Furby, but it's extended. So what they did at Slivka, some other people, they bought a Furby, and then they bought some fabric and then extended it together, and they called it the long Furby. And so yeah, my dorm just had a lot of fun putting this thing together, and it's kind of weird, but it's also kind of cool. Another thing I liked was that, yeah, I got the chance to be a peer mentor for an intro to computer science course. And yeah, I didn't think I would be able to get a job on campus just because I don't qualify for work study, but it was super cool because at least for my school, you're able to get a job even if you don't qualify for work study. Yeah, so that was really cool. Some of the things I like in terms of academics is it's really hands-on design focused engineering. And so these are some of the projects I have on the right side. At the top, you can see this tool. It's called a bead roller. And our job was to make it such that people that are coming into the shop would know what this tool is and how to use it safely. And then also at the bottom, you can see a prototype for this mixing bowl stand. And so we got to work our clients, and for this project in particular, our client could not use one side of their body, and so they needed to have a way to bake and get the batter out of a mixing bowl with only one side. And so we designed a stand, and we kind of pictured what it would look like to actually have this in practice. We ended up making it out of stainless steel, and it was so hard. I would not recommend using stainless steel. Just a lot of hours just kind of trying to polish it up. But yeah, one thing that really sets apart Northwestern is the quarter system. And so uh, yeah, you'll have three quarters. You'll have fall quarter, winter quarter, and spring quarter. And so you'll take normally 4 classes each, which means 12 classes a year. And so yeah, that can be really nice because you get in basically 3 months you're done with the courses and you get to have a chance to really explore a lot of interests. At the same time, it can be really tough, really stressful, especially since it can feel like every 2 or 3 weeks you have midterms or other exams coming up. So it's rushed, it's busy, but it's also a great opportunity to get uh, to kind of explore some other interests. And then, like I mentioned before, I had a job which I didn't think I would be able to, since I was not federal work study eligible. And then, yeah, another thing is some schools, when you apply and you apply for a certain major, you're kind of locked into at least related majors, or it's kind of hard to transfer out. But here at Northwestern, you're able to come in, let's say, as a political science major and then easily transfer into the engineering school or easily transfer into another school, maybe the School of Arts and Sciences. And so, yeah, I thought that was pretty good because they really care about you learning what you're interested in, and they make it easy for you to switch into different majors. And then academic support, yeah, like the professors are great. There's a lot of teaching assistants that really want to help you out. Another thing is the students are very collaborative. I know at some other institutions it can just be very individual based, and it can be tough to get some help just because everyone's trying to uh, focus on their own grades. But here at Northwestern, my experience has been that people want to help each other out, and they're very open with collaborating. Yeah, so I think about Northwestern is it's very pre-professional, and what I mean by that is that everyone's kind of on the ball. Everyone's focused on what they're gonna do after they leave Northwestern, and so that can mean anything from the internship, trying to get an internship. Everybody's super focused on that, or people are trying to do research throughout the year. But yeah, one thing that's notable is that you get a sense of these people that go to this institution, they really want to make a change. They really want to build something. They really want to work towards something. And yeah, they keep busy and they know what they're going for. So that's kind of the vibe. Another reason, yeah, another thing I liked is the residential college that I'm in. So I mentioned Slivka and it kind of being a little bit quirky with the long Furby. But yeah, so there's actually a couple different ways you can live on campus. So there's Greek life. So you would live at a fraternity house or a sorority house. And then there's the residential colleges. And then there's also the more traditional dorms. And so at my school, Greek life is kind of prominent. It's about 30-40% of the students that are involved with that. It's it's noticeable if you want it to be noticeable. So yeah, in some schools, Greek life can really take on a lot of the social scene, but really it's up to you. Like if you don't want to go to a party Friday, Saturday night, then you're just not going to notice Greek life. Maybe instead you'll go to a play that students are putting on, or a comedy show, or just a lot of different things you can do. They even have movie nights and a lot of different things you can do on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, just to get yourself busy. So if you want Greek life, you can find it for sure, but you know it's not like it's in your face about it. Another thing is we are a D1 school, so it's very athletic. Like I mentioned, I got into weightlifting once I got to school, and yeah, just great facilities. And you always see the athletes kind of like on their scooters, and they have like little motorbikes that they ride around on campus. And yeah, you could just kind of tell who. There's a lot of people that really take care of themselves and are out and about, just doing sports, whether that's club sports like the track club, or whether it's the football team, which is competing on a D1 level. And then another thing is the diverse talent. So I got to meet a lot of international students. That was super cool. A lot of my close friends are from Singapore and China, and so yeah, I before then I hadn't met anyone. I hadn't met anyone from Singapore or China, so that was really cool. And then yeah, this thing at the bottom here is a one of my friends from Singapore, he's a theater double major. And so he got to make this set design. And it's just like little things that you see every day. You just see people making really cool stuff, and it's very interesting. And then, yeah, diverse talent. There's a lot. It's a predominantly white institution, about 50% white. But, you know, there's the other 50%, and that's a decent amount of minority students. And here's a picture from the Compass program that I mentioned, the mentorship program for first generation low income students. And yeah, like there's spaces on campus where you can congregate and you can meet people that are coming from a similar background. And then yeah, those mentorship programs and the drop-in tutoring, or just a lot of support that you get on campus. So what I don't like, I mean, I would appreciate more Hispanics, more Hispanics there. I'm losing my Spanish, I'll be honest with you. Yeah, it's kind of tough. I mean, if you're not looking to hang out with Hispanic students, you just don't see them around, just because I think it's around 7% of students that are Hispanic. And from those 7%, it's hard to tell how many of them know Spanish and are culturally, that really practice the Spanish culture, I would say, or Hispanic culture. And then, yeah, like I mentioned, sometimes it being pre-professional, it can be easy to compare yourself to someone else. Maybe you're struggling to find an internship and somebody else got one at Google or Microsoft. Like, yeah, it can be really easy to kind of like compare yourself to others, but you kind of start not letting it get to you, and you kind of start focusing on yourself. And then, yeah, so I'm on North Campus, which is more engineering STEM focused. It's kind of like a North and South Campus divide, in that South Campus is more liberal arts focused. A lot of the theater, for example, theater and the journalism school, like those are on South Campus, that kind of a thing. And so North Campus, it doesn't get that political, or yeah, it doesn't get that political. It's less artsy, just because of the type of students that are there, mostly STEM students. Maybe about half of the students in North Campus are doing STEM. And then, yeah, but when I do go to South Campus, yeah, you'll just get to see a lot of like theater students, a lot of students that are studying maybe something like African studies, or maybe they're studying some other majors like journalism or anything like that. And yeah, when it does get political, it can get a little bit heated, which isn't that often. For example, the College Republican Club at Northwestern hosted a speaker, Jeff Sessions, and he was talking about Trump's the real motive behind Trump's agenda. And yeah, there were protesters, and it was kind of heated. It was kind of like, oh, if you went to this speaker, like, why are you supporting them being on campus? And so I'm less of a political guy, so I didn't like that much. I didn't like seeing that as much. But yeah, there's a lot of good things that come from protests. For example, a lot of the minority and low-income student support came from student protesters. And yeah, so I like that part. It can just get a little bit heated sometimes. And then economic disparity, I mean, you'll get this at a lot of top institutions, but you can just kind of tell, like some students have a lot of money and some students don't. So for example, like some of my friends, they would eat out every Friday, or on Saturday they'd go to downtown Chicago, and then they'd go to stores and that kind of a thing. And I just didn't, just because I didn't have the budget for it. But yeah, the school tries to really, things that are on campus, they're mostly free, they're very accessible. And yeah, like if you're on campus, you don't really have to pay for anything. So they really make it easier for you to experience college life without the actual, without the economic strain, I would say. And then it's a beautiful walkable campus. So you can see on the top right, we have this lake fill. And so this is Lake Michigan on the side. It feels like an ocean. I'm going to be honest. It feels like an ocean. If you can't see the other side, it's basically an ocean. That's what I'm going to say about that. And yeah, you can sit on these rocks. They get painted. It's super cool. Yeah, in the middle, you can see the gym. So great weightlifting facilities if you're into that. And then on the left side, you can see the a sports indoor stadium that they have. And so this is where like the football team practices. And then some people bash the food. I really like the food, so I'm just gonna say that. I like it better than the food I got from the tours. I think I ate at MIT in sophomore, but yeah, I like the food. Another thing is coming from Houston, the winter can be pretty tough. So it doesn't get this bad as the picture in the bottom right shows like that often, but when it does, like you're cold, and then it can like as the ice starts melting, the snow starts melting, we get ice, and it can be a little bit slippery. And then another thing is like we don't have a track, which coming from the track club, I don't like just because most high schools do. But yeah, like we have to go to a high school's track, which is about 2 miles away from campus, just for us to train. So I don't maybe a track is not as important to you. There's like a small indoor track that's about 150 meters, but yeah, not too much. So yeah, these are some other possible topics I brainstormed that we could talk about. So my fall quarter experience, how that happened, how that went going. This is me in a track club race. So yeah, that was super cool. And then also I can talk about my experience with the mental health and the health services, my financial aid experience, summer opportunities, some of my academic difficulties, and then more about the clubs that I'm a part of, just general advice, the school's COVID response, and tips for college applications and search. Mr. Lopez, I can keep going, or we can start the Q&A. It's up to you.
Excellent. No, thank you very much, Gilberto, for walking us through some initial thoughts. I want to just first just celebrate you a little bit and thank you for walking us through your journey. In the chat, if our participants, let's give Gilberto some smiley faces or some words of encouragement for walking us through and taking some time to do this presentation. And while the chat is doing that, Gilberto, there's actually a couple of questions that came up that I would like to kind of pose your way, and let's see if you have any thoughts to this. The first one was kind of around study abroad. So just wondering if you had like any perspective as to what study abroad could look like at Northwestern, or if you have ever studied abroad, and you could just talk a little bit more about the opportunities for doing that.
So I mentioned that I'm trying to pursue a bachelor's and master's program. So I'm actually trying to do a fifth year. And the reason I'm doing a fifth year is to fit in. I'm trying to do 2 study abroads. I actually had the intention of going to Germany this summer before COVID set in. But yeah, so there's a lot of summer programs. Engineers, generally, they study abroad during the summer unless they really fit it into their schedule. Normally, junior year, fall quarter would fit in. It can be a little bit awkward at times because of our different academic calendar, but there's a lot of opportunities out there, and I hope I can get to Singapore in fall 2021. So that's the dream. If it goes better, then yeah, I'll try to get some study abroad in.
Awesome. It sounds like Northwestern has programs all over the world, because I heard you mention Singapore, Germany, different continents there. With studying abroad, does your financial aid also or do you have to pay a lot more to study abroad, or do you know anything about that?
Yeah, so from my understanding, study abroad, you'd pay about the same. Like they'd adjust your financial aid as if you were on campus. It varies a little bit more with summer programs because normally in the summer you wouldn't be at the school. But even with the summer programs, there's some of them are paid, some of them are scholarships that you can apply for. And so it's very affordable, very accessible, and it shouldn't be that much, shouldn't be that difficult to find a program that would work.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing. So kind of along that lines, a student wanted to know, like you said that debt was a deal breaker for you in your presentation. So how would you say that Northwestern helped you with debt? Like talk to us a little bit maybe about like your financial aid and how they support that. I'm assuming it's good since you went, right?
Oh, you're talking about the money?
Yeah, you put you're afraid of debt, right? So how did Northwestern support you with that, or in what way did they set you up financially?
Yeah, so I actually came in, I got matched, like I mentioned, to the Questbridge, through the Questbridge program. So my financial aid is pretty good. But even if I hadn't gotten matched, I would have had a very similar package. From my understanding, I would have had to pay maybe around at $1,200 a year, which is pretty affordable. Even yeah, for going to school like this, I'd say that's definitely a worthy investment. Uh, yeah, one thing I didn't know about was that my school requires me to have like a summer contribution, and so it's kind of like they expect you to work during the summer and have some amount of savings. For me, it's something like work and make $3,000 a summer to kind of like help you out throughout the year. But besides that summer contribution, everything else is paid for, and it's been pretty good. And from my understanding, even if you just have the regular financial aid without the Quest Bridge program, you'll get a very similar package.
Wow. So they're charging you $1,200 a year for a $70,000 a year. A pretty good deal to me.
Yeah, it depends on your family's income, but based off of what I remember from the like emerge income brackets, it would be something along those lines.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing that. There's also some questions coming in just around like the initial balance, right, in transitioning to college. So I know that it seems like you're really passionate about track and that there's a lot of clubs you're involved in. Like, how was it balancing that? Was it different from, you mentioned you went to Chavez High School. How was the balance at like Chavez High School compared to like going to Northwestern and still trying to do activities in school?
Okay, yeah. So I was pretty fortunate in being able to do these two summer programs because they kind of helped me prepare for the academics. Uh, I really liked Chavez High School. I got to do I got to take 18 AP courses, so I had a decent exposure with like challenging material, I would say. But it's just different in college in general. Like it's just different studying habits. It's a different. It's almost like a flipped classroom in terms of the like you're in charge of making sure you learn the material. Like at the end of the day, and yeah, so I would recommend if students have the opportunity to do a summer program leading into their freshman year that they should do one. But yeah, talking a little bit about my fall experience, it was pretty stressful because we had this orientation week right before the classes started, and my phone broke. I was kind of on a tight budget, and that was kind of stressful just because you need your phone to talk to people and get socially connected. But yeah, you make a lot of friends through the orientation program, but it's just so easy. It's just so easy when school starts to kind of like try to not fall behind in your classes and get you can get a little bit socially disconnected if you start falling behind, like if you let yourself do that. So yeah, one thing that really helped me was the mentorship program I mentioned, the Compass mentorship program. Like every Friday night I had to be there, and so just having that set on my calendar, it was something that was really great. Just because yeah, when you get stressed, it can be easy to say, oh, I'm not gonna leave my dorm I'm not gonna leave the library for the weekend because I'm trying to catch up with the coursework. But yeah, I think what I would say is, yeah, get involved with one or two things. Put it in your calendar. Make sure you prioritize getting out there, making social connections. Because when you're stressed out, when you're burned out, you're gonna need people to support you, and you're gonna need people to help you get through the stress of college.
So beyond attending that summer program, what did that program teach you about what you need to be doing when you are feeling stressed or when you're trying to handle the challenging classes at Northwestern? Like what do you have to do differently? Like what were some of the tangible things like you have to do differently to like not fail, right, at Northwestern? What do you have to do?
Yeah, so I was introduced to the concept of reading a textbook. And so, yeah, that was one thing. A lot of professors may say that the readings or the textbooks are optional, but like one guy told me, he said, for students like you, low income, first generation students, it's not optional. Like I would say it's not optional. You need to put the time in to read those course materials, even if they say it's optional or not. Yeah, I think that's one of the biggest things I got was I'm gonna need to put in some time into reading, getting more exposure to the material, just because some other students, everyone's talented at the school, but some other students have just had more practice in the learning style that college has, and it can just be it can be a little bit discouraging at times when you see people picking up the material a little bit faster than you. But at the end of the day, as long as you put more time into it, it really helps you out. Another thing I got out about it academics wise was that it's okay to like go to office hours. In high school, like I did all my work individually, and it was very rare. Like I if I didn't understand like one problem in the homework, I just would make an attempt and just kind of turn it in. But yeah, like you can't do that much in college just because if you don't know how to do this problem, like what are you going to do on the exam, or maybe this is a really important problem that'll help you do some of the other problems that are coming up. And yeah, I mean, you can't always get to every single problem, but whenever you do get stuck, there's always office hours, and even sending an email. Or one thing I really liked is Piazza service that they use. It's a Q&A website where you submit questions and other students and the professor can answer them. So if there's something like that, participate, make sure to get your questions in. And yeah, for me, it was really challenging learning to ask for help. So that was the biggest thing I think I got from the program, was because if I would have not asked any of my friends or ever contacted my professors, I would have spent a lot more hours just frustrated, kind of like banging my head against the material and not making too much progress. But yeah, like sometimes it easily saved me 4 or 5 hours of work just by asking one person. And that's why I really like the collaborative nature of the school. That's kind of what I learned in these summer programs, is that people are willing to help you. And even if they're not, there's someone else who is willing to.
Awesome. I think that's really great advice, Gilberto, and I definitely could understand and see your perspective how, you're coming from a school where you're probably, in the top 5%, you have this amazing GPA, this amazing SAT, and now you're going to a school where everybody's smart, everybody's talented, everybody, was near the top of their class. And it sounds like that was a little bit of a challenge transition, but of course, asking for help and understanding that that isn't a weakness. That's not a bad thing. That's actually something that's going to help you grow stronger. It's going to help you connect with others, and that's a good thing. So that's really great to hear. And I appreciate that advice. I'm sure there's a lot of people who need to hear that. Another question that was coming up. So I want to take you a little bit back to your high school transition as you were going to transition to Northwestern. Talk to me about how your parents felt about this. Were they supportive of you leaving to Chicago? If so, how were they supportive, or how did you get them to that point? And if they weren't supportive, what kind of conversations did you have so that they could eventually become on board for you to go to Northwestern?
Yeah. So my parents immigrated from Mexico. They're both teachers, so they really value education. So they already knew I was going to leave home to go to some school. And yeah, once I got into Emerge, they kind of knew, oh, maybe out of state as well. So they were already kind of primed into me, the idea of me going to some institution. Uh, like I mentioned, I didn't know Northwestern. My parents, even less, like they didn't know the school at all. When I told them Chicago, they said, oh, that's super cold. And I said, yes. Yeah, I think the biggest conversation that we had was, yeah, like I mentioned, money. Like they basically sat me down coming into my senior year, and they were like, we're not going to be able to help you financially. And that's kind of like this afraid of debt came in. I mean, it's at times it can, yeah, I think one thing I would say now looking back, do be conscious about money, but don't be afraid of debt, because you can invest in yourself, and that's always a good investment. So yeah, I think another conversation that we had is like, when are you coming back? Are you coming back Thanksgiving break or spring break? My first year, I stayed on campus during Thanksgiving and spring break. So I remember I came back in June. So I left in January. I came back in June, and I was like, wow, that's 6 months I hadn't seen my parents. That's such a long time. And my mom was like, oh, that's so long. I missed you. But yeah, eventually just kind of telling them about the school and telling them that I really think this is the way to go for me to advance my education. They were really on board and very supportive.
Talk to me about the first time you felt homesick. So when you got on the plane and you went to this city that you had never really experienced before by yourself, right? And you were over there. I'm sure within the first couple of weeks, if not the first couple of months, you probably got homesick, right? And there was a moment where you probably wanted to go back to Houston. What did you do? How did you get out of that?
Yeah. So I mentioned that my phone broke coming into my fall quarter. And it was just kind of like when I couldn't call my parents, I really wanted to go home. But yeah, throughout the quarter, sometimes you like I set up a routine. I'd call my parents, especially on Sundays. I speak with them like 8 to 10 p.m. Just kind of like putting that into my schedule, making sure I got that conversation and just hearing their voice. So that really helped me out. I think one thing that helps whenever you're feeling homesick is to surround yourself with people who come from a similar background. And so I mentioned going to that event with Abuelita Chocolate and also a lot of different groups on campus come from, at least for Hispanics in particular, low-income students. You can find them, and it's really comforting just because if you're hanging out with a lot of international students or other people who may not have a similar background, it can just like make it stand out, like, oh, I'm not home. And yeah, I think it's going to happen to everyone. Homesickness is, that's one of the things I think you get out of college, is that you're going to be on your own. You're going to learn how to be on your own. But yeah, don't forget your family. Make sure to keep in touch. And I think setting up that routine of calling them at least once a week is probably pretty helpful.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing that. Another question's coming in, and I know you talked about this a little bit already, but if you could maybe speak a little bit more about your own experience interacting with them, or just kind of tell us a story related to it. But somebody's wondering, like, how does Northwestern like support first generation low income students at their school? So if you have a personal story around your experience and how you were supported, or if you know of just like any other opportunities that you haven't mentioned, I think this could be a good time to bring those up.
Yeah. So what's really cool about Northwestern is that we have this new office, Student Enrichment Services, and it really came about in 2014 when there's a Questbridge Club on campus, which essentially is a group for low-income students to have like social programming and also kind of get resources, help get support from the school. And so, yeah, after like a year or two of student activism, essentially, that office was created to actually help students out that are low income and first generation. And so, yeah, like I mentioned, the Compass program that I was part of, that mentorship program, is actually run by that office. And they, like, if you speak with that office, they can really help you out in terms of maybe you're having a really hard time because you're homesick, or maybe you need an extension. Like they'll help you write that email to your professor that says, hey, I'm really having a hard time here. Can I get 1 or 2 extra days on this assignment? I think another thing that really helped me out was, from the mentorship program, one mentor I had, he really connected me. Like I told them, I have 3 exams on one day, but just coming from my background, he was like other students would tell their professors like if they could take it on a different day, and it was just so weird. It's kind of like what I mentioned about asking for help. I think for a lot of first generation low income students, like they don't necessarily feel that comfortable about being accommodated in certain ways, and so yeah, like asking extensions I think can be really hard. Also asking if you can take an exam in a different day can be very challenging. And so, yeah, I think, I think that Northwestern makes it such that you can find other students that are coming from a similar position that are upperclassmen, and they kind of teach you. They kind of teach you these things like it's okay to ask for an extension. It's fine to say, hey, can I take your exam the day after because I have 3 exams on this one day, and it's just, I think that connection with upperclassmen is really what helps you out. And that's one thing that I really got out of the residential dorms, for example.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing that. So another question came in around, and you kind of mentioned this a little bit in a few of your other responses, but maybe you can dive deeper here, just around like what the professors are like at Northwestern. So how would you describe your professors, and do has there been a particular professor you've been able to build a relationship with, or Talk to us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so yeah, my school's a research institution. They do a lot of research, especially in the engineering school. Uh, at, they're at the top of their field. I'll be honest. Like when they're giving their lecture, they know what they're talking about. They're always prepared for the lectures, and that's always really helpful. Just because you have confidence in that they're teaching you the right material. But they're also very accessible. Yeah, I was kind of surprised because like coming into college, I thought professors like maybe they don't build relationships with students and they're kind of more obsessed with like their research. Maybe they don't, maybe it's just like like a 9 to 5 to them, a 9 to 5 job for them, but they really want to meet their students. One thing that really surprised me was that I was speaking with my advisor a couple of weeks ago, and then he mentioned in passing that he really missed the students being on campus. Like I was surprised to hear that, just because like at least I didn't think about that much like what students contribute to professors, but it's actually a lot. I would say, yeah, like it's a two-way road. Like yeah, so these professors are actually very accessible. They're very willing to help you out. They're very accommodating if you communicate on time. And yeah, like if you're interested in research, like they have research labs, they have projects that are going on, and they're very willing to get undergraduates involved. And even like in office hours, like they'll chat with you and they'll give you advice. Like for example, I asked one of my professors, my computer science professor, I said, oh, my program in Germany got canceled. What should I do? So yeah, he was pretty helpful. He was like, yeah, I did remote research one summer. I was trying to get a job at a grocery store, but I couldn't because it's very competitive. And so like they'll just share like stories about what they went through in their experience. And it'll be kind of like, it'll be interesting because they were in your shoes maybe 10, 20, 30 years, depending on how old they are. But yeah, they're not afraid to build social relationships. That's something I appreciate.
Awesome. I think we have time for a few more questions here, and one that just came in was around. So you obviously are very involved with STEM, and that's kind of like your field. But so someone was just wondering if you know anything else about like just fields more broadly that Northwestern is known for. So like, what would when you think about the most common majors or the most common areas of interest? What stands out?
Yeah, I think we have a really good school of journalism. So, for example, the student newspaper, the Daily Northwestern, is supposed to be nationally acclaimed. I didn't know that coming in, but yeah, the journalism's top notch. Another really interesting thing is I mentioned the theater program a couple times. Like they're really good. Like for example, comedy shows. I know a couple people went into Saturday Night Live after they finished theater, for example. Another thing about we have a music school, the Beanan School of Music, and yeah, like it's intense. I'd say that studying music at my school like may be harder than like most STEM majors, just in terms of how intense it is. But it's also worth it because these people get into like the top orchestras in the world. Like they become thriving musicians. And yeah, I think a couple other programs that stand out. I've heard good things about the languages. Like if you want to learn German or Spanish or Japanese or Korean, like those are all available, and the intro sequences are supposed to be pretty good. I talk to a lot of my friends, and they say, "Oh yeah, I took Spanish in high school for 4 years, and I learned more in my 3 months of intro Spanish than I did in high school." So, I mean, depending what you're interested in, there's a lot of majors, and most of them are pretty good, I'd say.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing. I will add too, for folks who are wondering about majors, I would just add the caveat that, guys, Northwestern is a top 15 college in the country. So realistically, when you're going to a school that is that selective and prestigious, really any program that you choose to partake in is probably going to be a really successful, really robust program. I know too, you kind of mentioned this a little bit, Gilberto, but you didn't tell them the full story about how the School of Journalism in Northwestern, there's kind of like this the network of Northwestern. They're called the Purple Mafia because a lot of the people who come from the School of Journalism and Communications, they all end up going in the same networks to get. If you look at the people who work for ESPN, like a lot of the guys who work for ESPN all went to Northwestern. So a lot of the guys who are kind of on Sports Center and those types of things. So really, really strong networks, especially in the journalism and communication programs at Northwestern as well. Gilberto, there have been some questions too about like the admissions process. So I know you mentioned a little bit about your academic profile, but I'm wondering, like, from your perspective, like, is there any advice or maybe any guidance you can provide? Maybe you're talking to some students right now and they're like, you know what, Northwestern sounds great, I want to apply. Is there any advice you would give to them as they're thinking about how to craft that application process for Northwestern, or any kind of tips you can shed light on specific to the application?
Yeah. So at least from my understanding, SAT and test scores, like test scores in general, they're kind of like it's kind of like a entry bar. Like once you get past a certain score, like it stops mattering as much, from my understanding. And so, yeah, really what they care about is whether like your writing and the activities you've done and the classes you've taken are preparing you to, one, like be successful academically at the school, but at the same time also develop yourself and really get something out of coming to the school, and whether you'll be able to kind of bring value to the other people around you. So yeah, one thing I would say is the writing. Like make sure that you have a clear narrative in your writing, and make sure that you're really emphasizing. I think one thing that I would mention is, whenever you can be introspective and you can show personal growth, that's always great to see in writing. That's what I would say. And then there's also like the why Northwestern, for example, the why Northwestern question. And what I would say for that is just be honest, like figure out what's drawing you to the school. So for example, I mentioned this donut looking thing in my essay. I said, oh, I want to get into this nuclear fusion energy. Even though now I'm less interested in that, I would say, yeah, just show some interest and show something that is really appealing to you. I think one thing that is really valued is kind of like that you want to learn, but also that you want to contribute to your society, contribute to the community around you. That's always, yeah. So I said personal growth, showing you want to learn, and also contributing to the community. Those are three really good things that are good to emphasize. And yeah, what I would say to that is just do more writing, get some more feedback on that.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing that. The last question I want to end with here is this. So, as you think about the fact that you attended Northwestern and, when you were applying to college in general, is there anything that you wish you knew about the admissions process, about your journey, about yourself, or just anything you wish you knew before you actually went to Northwestern about now compared to now?
Yeah, I think one thing I would say is don't get yourself so locked into one program or one interest that you have. So for example, I really focus on making sure that my school had a good engineering program. I mentioned that's what I wanted to get into, but there were also some other interests that I was into, and yeah, I think what's good is you make sure you check out some of the other components. For example, I didn't know about the Purple Mafia. I didn't know about some of the other aspects of the school just because I was so focused on engineering. But yeah, I think another thing I would tell myself is, yeah, I would tell myself to, yeah, like don't be afraid to go to a school that maybe you've never heard about. Like if the school wasn't a Questbridge partner, I wouldn't have known about it. But yeah, I think it's good to always do some research and try to figure out based off the values that you have, making sure that you have concrete values that you're looking for, concrete things that you want to see in your school, making sure that you have those pinpointed down. That's really going to help your search and help you narrow down what school you're going for. And then knowing what you want to get out of school is always important. So I think a little bit more thinking about like what I wanted to do maybe after college, even if it's just very broad, would have been helpful in the writing process.
Gilberto, I want to thank you so much for your time today. I know that you're sacrificing some time to be with us and to share your advice with all of the Emerge seniors that are about to go through this process. I really appreciate you. In the chat from our Emerge seniors, I would love for you all share some words of gratitude with Gilberto. Thank him for his time today. Gilberto, if you wouldn't mind, share your email as well in the chat so that if I know you had it on that PowerPoint slide, but if you want to also put it in the chat. If there's anybody here who has follow-up questions, I think we answered most of them, but if there's any other questions that are coming up for you all, feel free to reach out to Gilberto. He's a great guy. He knows a lot about Northwestern. And he didn't even really talk too much about Chicago, so he could tell you more about Chicago in those follow-up emails about that deep dish pizza.
Yeah, for sure, man. You'll get a lot of deep dish pizza just because it's Chicago's known for that. But yeah, thank you, Mr. Lopez, for setting this up and helping this happen, making this happen. And yeah, here's my email. You can see it on the chat, and I'm happy to answer some questions.
Thank you very much. And Emerge seniors, before you leave, if you could please complete this exit ticket. It'll take you 3 minutes. It's going to help make us better. Like we said when we started this session, we want to continue to offer these types of opportunities for you. We know it's hard to choose a school, and we want to make these as informative, as helpful as they can be. And we need your help to do that, right? I'm an old man. I don't know how to is cool for the young kids, so I need your help to make this as awesome as it can be. Okay, so if you could take some time to give us some feedback, we would really appreciate it. Thank you all very much for your time today. Keep working hard. Reach out to Gilberto, reach out to myself or your program managers if you have any follow-up questions, and we will keep chipping away. Be safe, everybody, and have a great day.
Excuse me, sir?
Yes.
Hi, my name is Kim Meleza. Do you mind, by the way, this was an awesome presentation. I really liked the presentation, really loved it. By the way, do you mind sending me the link to the exit ticket in the chat, please? Because I'm doing this on my phone.
Yes, sir, I can do so. Thank you very much for bringing that up. I will type in the link right now for anybody who is also in the chat. I appreciate you for mentioning that. Let me type that in right now.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you for reaching out. So it is tinyurl.com/. All right, I just typed it in the chat, and just for anybody who can't see it, it's tinyurl.com/2021 CRS 2021 CRSET. Appreciate you all. Thanks again very much for your time today. Be safe.
Thank you, Mr. Lopez.
Thank you, Gilberto. You have a great day, and I will be in touch, okay? Thank you very much.
Yes, sir. Have a good one.
Take care.